It's a very interesting topic because there's been a lot of advancement in AI in the legal industry in the last few years, and particularly when the step learning approach was adopted to actually teach algorithms and to input data into algorithms, and that changed the way the industry worked. And nowadays, as we go through the topics with Dr. Yasser, you'll note that there's, and maybe for some of you, it'll be slightly new news, but there's so much amazing things you can do with natural language processing, with algorithms, like similarity algorithms, to review your contracts, to do risk analysis of your contracts, and also to do intelligent searches. And we'll go through each of those topics, and hopefully if you have any questions, I think we're professionals, so you can interrupt us whenever you want. And so go ahead and we'll go from there.
Thank you very much, Fayiaz. It's a pleasure really to join Fayiaz in this discussion. You know, I just figured out that he's an expert in the subject matter, and in the early morning discussion, I learned a lot from him. So as a starting point, I heard a rumor that some lawyers, not especially in this room, they have a concern that the AI will take over their jobs. Whoever believes in this, raise your hand, please. Okay, so it seems that this rumor are not correct, right? So I didn't see any hand raised, which is a good news. Just to revalidate this point, because I have seen it maybe in a discussion with other lawyers who think that AI can take the job. So before I tackle the AI and convince you that, you know, the AI will not really create aliens to take over our planet, I don't think this is a discussion that we need to take. But let's focus first on the role of the lawyer. And then we can think whether there is really a competition between the AI and the lawyer. So it all depends on how you define your role as a lawyer, right? So we are in different stages in our career, whether starting or a little bit progressing, or you start to become at the top of the ladder. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it depends on how you see it, okay? Some lawyers, they would say, I am a risk mitigator. My role is really to spot the risk and to maybe advise the business on the solution, and that's it. And some lawyers, maybe they see their added value is much bigger. It's not only within their companies, but they can influence the industries, they can influence their communities, and influence the world, right? There is no limit, you know, for how you would like to describe your role as a lawyer. I always say that I am a lawyer anywhere, right? Whether in my company, in the club, while even I'm sleeping, I am a lawyer. So we shouldn't really underestimate our job. We really can add a lot of value if we focus on our companies, right? Acting as a true business partner, focusing on the strategic thinking and the analytical and the critical thinking skills that you have, and expanding a little bit on your business and commercial acumen, and try to really push and develop the business and to put them on the right direction. Helping developing people within your companies, helping them to develop a better judgment, helping them to be ready, whether by the right legal knowledge or the right expertise, helping them to de-risk their operations, to front-load their operations, whether in contracts, whether in acquisitions, or in any other aspect of the business. This is a huge job. And you tell me now, if an AI system can really compete with you in that or not. To do this job, you will need to release all of your power, your intellectual power, which is not combined, which is not limited really to the information. Now you will need to use your judgment, your experience, all the stories that you have been through all over your career, right? You will need to engage your emotions. You will need to get all this together to be able to advise the business on the way forward. And with that, I don't think that really AI can compete in any way. But it's a big leverage that we need to use. And now let me ask Fayiaz how really we can use the AI to really maximize and to amplify the added value of lawyers.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to walk and talk. I'm better at walking and talking because I can think better if I'm walking and talking. So my apologies for being a little bit haphazard on stage. So I think you've got to go back to first principles. And we lawyers know how to do that because we're taught to go back to first principles as we try and sort out complex legal problems. And what does technology really do? The aim of technology is to reduce your manual effort. In any form, in any circumstance, in any company, fundamentally, technology is reducing your manual effort. And so if you take that into consideration when we're talking about legal work, as in-house lawyers or even in private practice, our brains are what they are. The time we have is what we have. And so therefore, it's important that we use it and maximize it to its best use and best efficiency. So really, you don't want to spend your brain power or your time doing admin work or doing searches or trying to look at documents or even cut and pasting standard clauses. Anyone can do that. That's not the job of a lawyer. The job of a lawyer is to add value. And you add value by being creative in your solutions, which you're providing to your clients, to your customers, to your in-house customers. And that's where technology helps you. So technology is a tool to reduce your manual effort. Having been in-house for a long, long time, similar to Dr. Yasser, I would tell you in-house, the structural organization, so the legal department is, for example, are always understaffed. And so you have to find ways to be efficient. And AI is there and it helps it. And I'll give you a simple example. Let's go with examples. Examples are always better. So if I'm a general counsel in-house and someone comes to me, or if I'm a partner in a law firm and, let's say your customer comes to you and says, hey, these are my 50 contracts and I want to work out what my payment provision is in those 50 contracts. Now, the usual way to do that would be to get someone junior who's trying to go further in life and therefore is actually going with your every whim, and get him to do the manual work. And he'll go through every contract and he'll print it out if he's in old days, or look at a computer. He'll find the clause, and if he's getting really tired or his mom's calling because he has to go back home, or his wife is calling or his girlfriend's calling, he'll be like, oh, this was on page 24. I missed that one, never mind. And he will find the clause, he will cut and paste it, or he will write it down. He'll put it into a spreadsheet somewhere. And then a week or 2 weeks later, he'll be like, oh, here's my analysis. And that's a complete waste of time, really, for a lawyer, because that's not what you're trained for. You're trained to add value and be the creator which we are. And so even in-house, a CFO comes to you on a Friday afternoon and says, hey, I'm getting to the end of the month. I need to collect payments from my customers, for example. So can you tell me, which of my main customers I have an issue with? So which are the sort of riskier payment clauses where I need to emphasize and which aren't? And again, that's the same issue in-house. You do the same thing. You get a junior lawyer, he goes through the contracts, he tries to find the payment clause, he works out whether that's in line with company policy or not, and then he puts it together in a spreadsheet. So imagine if you can actually have your contracts uploaded in contract management systems or online, and you can use natural language processing to go in there and just say, hey, find me all the payment clauses from all my contracts. And using algorithms and a mixture of natural language processing even, not only can you find the provisions within about 20 seconds, but the AI is intelligent enough for it to think about, okay, this is a payment clause and it says payment. This is a fees clause, but it's also a payment clause, and can actually go through that. And you can export it within 20 seconds. It puts it into a spreadsheet for you. It provides headings for all the contracts, and then you can provide it to whoever you need to. So I think that's a good example of AI where it works very well, where it's completely reducing your manual effort on administrative and also sort of mundane tasks where you don't want to spend time on. And nowadays you guys should Google this, but about 10 years ago, they came up with a concept called step learning. So step learning was a Stanford University concept. And basically, what they realized was actually to try and teach or try and enhance an algorithm by just shoving information to it was a bad way to do it. So they do it step by step. So they came up with a step learning approach. And once they did that, training algorithms became very, very easy. And nowadays, you can go on and you don't need to write an algorithm. There's library algorithms. If you're using TensorFlow, in Google, there's a library algorithm. If you're using the AWS machine learning system, their library algorithms, and they can be trained so quickly and efficiently with data that the example I gave is now available and can be used. So Dr. Yasser, anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I can just tell our colleagues here a story, just to confirm what you said. So a few weeks ago, my CEO passed by my office, and they said, Yasser, we are in trouble. One of our customers is raising a tricky discussion with us, and I need to know my options. I told them, okay, no worries, let's do it. I opened the contract. It's 800 pages with all the specs, all the other schedules, and so on. And to be honest, I felt a bit, I would like really to do it myself, right? I would like to become a lawyer again, right? So being a general counsel, sometimes you get stuck with the strategies, with the big decisions, and you feel sometimes, I really want to do it. And I can tell you, I stopped after 6 minutes. So I couldn't really go on. So after the third page, I get frustrated and I thought, what I'm doing here? So I called my team, guys, here you go. I need a full analysis of this type of points in the contract. And I need a delay analysis for all the progress happening in this project so that I can take a decision on what would be the right strategy, what would be the tactic game that we will apply with this case. My team took 3 days, okay, and they worked even till midnight to go through the 800 pages, to get out all the required related clauses, and to go through all the project documents, not only the 800 pages, but they need to see the communications and so on. Finally, after 3 days, we got a very solid case to defend, with our customer. Can you imagine if we have an AI system that can help us, how this would help us, right? We are not big team. At the end of the day, no matter what how big you are, it's still small, right? Compared to the risk that you are dealing with. That's why thinking about really extending your arm by having the right AI system in place, it would be a great value, not only to you, but to the company that you are dealing with. And with that, you would focus really on what really matters. You focus where you can add more value, which is advising the big boys in the company about the key risk is how to change the culture, how to improve how we work, right? How we can really become more profitable, how we become more sustainable. Try to develop the people across, look to all the proceeds that you have within your companies and take them forward. This is really where you can add value. But if you are stuck with all the routine daily activities, reviewing a power of attorney, reviewing NDA. I remember sometimes where I reviewed 5,000 contracts in a year, right? I learned a lot by doing so. And to be honest, I would feel sorry with our new generations who the AI will not allow them to do so. Because the point that we need to tap on here, to leverage the AI, you will need to be capable. You will need to develop yourself so that you can drive this very developed car. Do you agree? I cannot just, let's say, get a software and I expect that it will do all the job. It's like a magic. It's like the genie in the lamp. It doesn't work like that. So what do you think about this point? What I need to do in order to really leverage the AI?
So I think that's a good point. The more capable lawyer you have, the better you can leverage technology. And technology is not there to replace lawyers, it's actually to enhance your abilities to use your skills to provide advice efficiently and effectively. And so I think that's a really good point. And I'll give you another example. So for those of you who are in commercial law or look at contracts on a regular basis, the most time-consuming piece of a contract is the first time you have to review it. When you get a 90-page, 100-page MSA, and your first review is actually the most time-consuming. And what AI really does, or using similarity algorithms, which are trained according to your own contract playbook or your own requirements for certain provisions, it can actually analyze a 100-page document within about 20, 30 seconds. And it can tell you, these are the clauses which are acceptable according to your parameters. These are the clauses which I think are acceptable, but you may want to look at. And these are the clauses which are unacceptable and you should definitely review. So then what it's really doing is it's reducing your effort to do the initial review of the contract. After that, how you creatively transform the clause, and I always used to use definitions to get away with stuff. so you should if you want to. But how you actually transform the cause, what creative solution you come up with, how you negotiate, that's up to the lawyer. And the better lawyers will do that much, much better. The other sort of misconception as we were talking is that, oh, in-house it works. In private practice, it doesn't work. Well, it works in-house because, we understand, you guys don't have money and you don't want to spend money on lots of people. And a company would rather spend it on marketing and sales than another lawyer who is basically a sales deterrent in most cases. And so you're struggling for resources. So in-house, we understand you don't have the manpower and therefore you need technology. What about private practice? In private practice, we're charging by the hour. Why do I want to use technology which is going to reduce my hourly rates? And this is like a big question which I've answered many times, and therefore I've come up with a decent answer. So you're lucky that way. You should have been the first group who got my sort of rudimentary answer. So the answer to that is really very simple. It's not about reducing your hourly rate. It's providing value-add services to your clients for client retention and also to enhance your reputation as a law firm. So there's two ways in which law firms will use AI and technology. The first is that you're doing a fixed fee arrangement, whether that's litigation or that's commercial, or you're doing a fixed fee arrangement. And if it's a litigation matter and it's a fixed fee arrangement, you don't want to spend 2 weeks trying to do discovery on the documents. You actually want to use technology to try and make that efficient because you're getting paid what you're doing. So it's very useful that way. The second is, as I said, value-add business. So imagine you're a law firm and you're in competition with other law firms, and maybe you guys are in competition with each other. So it'd be fun to see you guys over dinner. So imagine there's you're in competition for a client, and you can go to the client and say, hey, I have software in which I can look at your contracts and I will give you a risk analysis of all your contracts. And I'll do this as a value-add service, as a client retention service. And you can do that because previously without technology, it would take you a lot of man hours, and therefore you don't want to spend that time. Time is money. But with technology, you can do that efficiently. And so for law firms, it becomes more of am I doing a fixed fee, fixed fee arrangement in any way? Commercial litigation, usually you have success fees. Or can I use technology to do value-add business as a customer retention and enhancement proposition? So I think it's a misnomer to say technology can only be used in-house for people with less resources. I think law firms, particularly the larger law firms and the mid-tier law firms, are using technology very heavily as a customer retention tool, and it's worked very, very well. The final thing I would say before I move back to Dr. Yasser is that you still need to teach the algorithm. So your algorithm is only as good as your data, which you input it. And I think that's the important thing. There is no magic algorithm which you can just stitch together and suddenly it knows everything. And so the quality of data in terms of the learning of the algorithms is really what makes a difference. It's all about the data input. And so you can buy off-the-shelf software and amend it according to your parameters. And there's a lot of companies, there's NetDocs, a contract management company I manage. They're trying to go into AI. Law Geeks came up years ago, and they started with NDAs and then to license agreements and then went to MSAs. We all know about the famous search engine, which is in most law firms nowadays. You can do that, but actually the best use of technology is when you're able to use your own inherent data with your own eccentric vision of clauses, and then you can use that to actually teach the algorithms. And it's not hundreds of contracts, it's thousands of contracts. I think a minimum requirement to have any kind of decent algorithm, you need at least 2,000 different variations of contracts for it to pick up things like fees is payment, payment is fees, indemnity is also liability clause, liability is also an indemnity clause, etc. And so whatever you buy, whatever you do, and happy, you guys will have the details, happy to give recommendation. I think the key thing is everything is going to depend on the data you're using to enhance it and to train the algorithm. Because without that, an algorithm isn't really that great anyway. Dr. Yasser, over to you.
Absolutely. It's very spot on, really insight that you shared, Fayaz. And if I can just elaborate on it also with a story. A few years ago, I started to at least educate myself about what does it mean, digital transformation in the legal market. So I start to interview a lot of companies, and step by step, I start to know what I need at that time. Okay, and then I approached my suppliers here, big names, and I start to tell them I need software to do contract review, archiving for the doc. Yeah, definitely we have it. And then when they start to put it in place and you try to test it and to see how it works, how this will integrate with the other softwares that we have within the company, how this will really make our life easier within the company, to what extent it will be configurable within your entire digital systems setup that you have within your company. I found that it's not really working as we wish, which means that bringing this software to our territory would bring more issues than help. And this is what we normally we don't foresee or we don't consider. We bring a software thinking that we are helping, and then problems start to pop up, and then you use your legal resources instead of adding value to the business of troubleshooting what the system is doing, which is a big really risk for the operation. So step by step, we start to learn that there is a big homework that I have to do. First of all, developing a workable manual process, a process that can everyone relate to, everyone see it friendly, everyone can follow, everyone can comply with, without being annoyed or feel that this process not helping, it's just adding a layer of complexity. This is a starting point, having a simple, workable, business-friendly process for reviewing contract, for whatever legal transaction you are doing. Second, investing in educating all the stakeholders about this process, so they can really excel all the milestones and they know how to use this process for adding value to their business. How this process, owned by business or legal, can really help them to maximize their profits and really push their sustainability. This is the second one. Third, putting a plan for the digital transformation from day one. When we start to put the blueprint of this process from scratch, we have to have a plan for the digitization, right? So we can take this normal evolution of the process. And then when we reach to the right level of maturity in terms, yes, this is the right one, everyone is familiar with this, everyone is aware how to use it for serving the business. Now it's time now to take it to the digital, to take out the routine burden and to take out the human error margins that you have, to increase the accuracy, to increase really the reliability of the advice, making sure that you can get the information in a more handy way. You can even maximize the information that you can get out of the technology to have a more and better informed decision. So this is really what you need to focus on. Once you have this, in my opinion, you will have a better capability now to speak with the supplier, with the digital software supplier, educating him about what you really need. And you will need to understand whether you would like something off the shelf and you will be happy with that, or you need a customized system. And if you need a customized system, good luck with that, because not many suppliers are willing to customize their softwares to fit your needs, which I think it would require some investment from your side to dig deeper. We have done the same. After dealing with all the big names, we found that, no, it will not work. I need to go now to a different level of developers. We used App for Legal, and they really did a fantastic job. They were very keen to customize a software or a program for us. So we designed with them the blueprint. This is exactly what we need, and they did it for us. It took us both together as a team, right? The supplier and Schindler, almost 18 months to get to where we are today. And it's just the start, because it's a customizable, means that we are going to scale it up as we go. And if we succeed within our region, I'm sure that we have a very nice sellable case outside our region to the rest of the Schindler world. So this is a partnership that we are developing with our supplier. I think this is a journey that we will need to have in our mind before we just jump to the digital transformation, including the AI, just to ensure that you have a smooth journey and you get the fruit that you aim from that, right?
So before we take questions, let's just finish off and give you a sliding scale of where you are and what kind of technology and products are available. So we start on the left-hand side, and you have your iCloud and your normal folders in sort of your cloud system, which is probably the worst thing to do. Then you progress to the middle and you're like, okay, I need a contract management system. So you have, iManage and NetDocs and all those wonderful companies who provide a contract management system. Then you get to the next level of sophistication and you're like, well, actually, I need a really intelligent search. I need to be able to look at thousands of contracts and pick out liability provisions, payment provisions, term provisions, risks, SLAs, whatever else you need to do. And then you get to your intelligent search features, and Kira Systems is well known because I think most of the top 100 law firms use it. They started off as a collaboration between PwC, I think, and them, and then it ended up being in all the law firms. So you get to the intelligent search. Now, with the intelligent search, they're using, most of them, natural language processing enhanced with maybe a couple of algorithms to provide some intelligence to it. And then you get to sort of the right-hand side, where you're going to using AI to review contracts. So in this case, using similarity algorithms or combining a few algorithms together, they can actually look at your preferred positions, review a contract for you, and do an analysis for you, and also in the same manner do a risk analysis. And on that side, you've got the likes of Law Geeks, and there's many other firms who do that. Thomas Reuters try and do a decent job, although, like you said, not very customizable. So that's kind of your range of where you are as a lawyer and the technology of where you're going to be. It's never going to get to the stage where you have AI which can replace a lawyer. But like I said, it's all about, for private practice, about customer retention and providing value-add services and actually making your fixed fee arrangements more efficient. For in-house lawyers, it's frankly about not having the resources and trying to use technology to do that. So I think we should open for questions for anyone who has any questions, and happy to answer them. Do you guys have a microphone, or the guys running around? Sorry about my voice. It was a karaoke night last night, and apparently I thought I was a better singer than I am, which I'm not. So go ahead.
I have a question. Actually, more of an observation. We're a small law firm. We're just about 40 lawyers today, and we do just labor and employment. And we've been using AI now for about 7 years. And we don't use it for contracts. So I'm sure that's surprising, right? So I'm sure you've heard of SA 8000, the labor compliance mechanisms. We use an exclusively in-house built tool to conduct the entire audit. And we were doing 30, 35 audits because these audits have to be done by lawyers. We're doing about 35, 40 a month. Today we do about 300. So another value addition is the client base that you can actually get when you start using machine learning and AI, because I can really double what I can take on. But the one question I did have for you is, who is accountable? Do I hold the software firm accountable if my AI screws up, or is it back on the lawyers again?
Well, it's always the lawyer. Blame the lawyer for anything and everything, for lack of sales, for operational deficiencies, for anything. I mean, that's the easy thing to do. And as a private practice lawyer, you have personal indemnity insurance, so you're good. It doesn't matter. Let them blame you. You're fine. But no, in this case, it's always the person, because I think it's about being able to use technology in the most efficient manner. I mean, if you review a contract or an audit process and you've set your parameters and you just say, well, I'm going to use whatever the system sort of pushes out, no system at the moment is anywhere near 100% accurate, and you'll never get there, not for at least the next 2-3 years. Mainly because now we have so many nuances in the way we word things as lawyers, depending on jurisdiction, depending on your areas of expertise, depending on actually your mother tongue, so whatever tongue you swear in, probably. So you have so many different sort of nuances that, and even for natural language processing, it needs to know that some people may call even a simple thing like a term clause. Some may call it the duration. Some may call it something else. So for fees, some may call it payment. Some may call it fees. Some may call it invoicing. Some may just call it charges, for example. So there's so many different variations in the way we do it that you're always going to have some anomalies. The good thing about AI tools, or the best AI tools, are that they're more conservative than aggressive. I think that's the key thing. Sorry, I think I dropped it down a bit. So the AI tools are more conservative than aggressive. So ideally, what an AI tool is doing is it's giving you more options than you really need, so that as a lawyer you can then filter through and be able to provide the right answer. So I think that's my view on things. But I agree with you that eventually we are accountable, and we always will be accountable, unless Elon Musk gets his way, and then we're not. Yeah, so anything you want to add to that?
No, I think as you said, it's all the responsibility of the lawyer, the beneficiary. I can tell you, at the end of the day, look for the end of this chain, and you will see that, in my opinion, he is the one who will really need to educate the whole system, the whole chain, with what he needs and how the game need to be played. So I fully agree with you.
Yeah, I have a question. You said that algorithm is only as good as the data you input. Now, in your
Sorry, could you speak up just a tiny bit? My apologies.
okay, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah. What you're saying is algorithm is only as good as the data you input. Now, you see, for a private practitioner, we deal in different jurisdictions. So particularly to you, I'm asking this question. Is there an AI program that is the software developed which is unique to only one jurisdiction or to different jurisdictions? Because here you are mostly talking about contracts, that is commercial contracts.
Yeah.
But in a legal practice, we have different areas. So apart from the human brain behind it, to what extent we should depend upon the software developers? Have you any idea of any developed software which is suitable for a legal practice as such, covering different jurisdictions? In your experience, have you come across any such software?
Yeah, so really great question, and you're right. The contract examples are easy, and so being a little bit lazy, I just took the contract examples. But AI and technology was first actually invented for e-discovery, and contract examples came much later on, and only in the last few years. The original concept of AI and technology was that we're spending hundreds and hundreds of man hours doing discovery in litigation matters. How do we make it more efficient, rather than having the olden days, you've got boxes and boxes of paperwork, and you've got all the juniors going through them and trying to find the things you're trying to find. So there are applications, and there are a lot of, without being a marketing sort of person for any of them, there are a lot of e-discovery software which you have, which is fundamentally just a litigation software. There's also a very interesting company in the US which has taken that one step further and said, look, we're not just doing e-discovery for you, we're going to use technology to actually write your claim for you. And they're doing it in multi-state jurisdictions. So just to an example of that. And so you've now got software, or it started off with e-discovery, now you've got software which actually will write the claim for you completely. And then you have, of course, a contractual and an IP and other sort of examples of that. Now, most large companies, very similar to if you subscribe to something like Practical Law or PLI or something, where you look at your precedents, they would be jurisdictional agnostic, but also allow you to put nuances for different jurisdictions. So I think that you have the ability, and there are many companies who can do that. The one thing you don't have is one software which can do e-discovery, IP, audit, contract. You don't have that. So what you have to really do is pick up different variations. And even in contract sort of analysis, if you want to do simple things, you go with someone like LawGeeks. If you want to do something more complex, there are other companies who do it slightly better. And so you're right, there isn't a one shop which does everything. One of the reasons why we managed to sell our company very, very quickly, actually within 11 months, was because the software we developed was, okay, it does a search, does risk analysis, and does contract analysis. So we kind of did a combined thing. And what we found was it's really, really hard to do because the algorithms you need for contract analysis are completely different to what you need for risk analysis because your parameters are different and the way you're leveraging the parameters are different. And it's very different to the natural language processing techniques you need for intelligent searches. So I think you'll find in the industry, you've got people who are just doing searches or intelligent searches. Kira is a good example. You've got people who are just doing e-discovery and audits, and then you've got people who are just doing contracts. But there isn't one which does everything, no, not at the moment.
Yeah, please. Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Good morning. Thanks for the presentation today.
By the way, I'm not looking for a job in case you're wondering, I'm fine.
No, I'm not gonna offer one.
I'm just teasing,
Yeah. Actually, today I just want to ask you two things.
Yes.
The first one is about the language barrier. What do you do when contracts start to be drafted in different languages? What happens to the system that you've produced? This is one. So it's only the language barrier. The second question is about the smart contracts and platforms like the metaverse. You know, people like are start talking about buying properties in the metaverse, buying intellectual properties, and the thing is, I've been discussing this with someone who's developing something, and he told me that we will reach a stage where contracts will be drafted automatically and they will be saved in blockchains and the same way you treat cryptocurrency, right?
Yeah.
And I just want your thoughts about that. What do you think the future of it, and where do we go from there?
So my apologies, I forgot the name of your company. Your company was?
App for Legal.
Sorry?
App for Legal.
App for Legal, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So two answers to this. So let's go with the first one. The problem with tools at the moment are that most of the technology companies who have built them are in the US and the UK, with a couple in Europe. But like 70% of all sort of technology companies are in the US. Well, actually 80% of stats are made up on the spot, so maybe not take that. But most of the companies are in the US because that's where the e-discovery kind of movement started. Then you got the UK involved and the large law firms like Allen Overy, Simmons & Simmons, and they started with that technology piece. And so, as you'd expect, they all sort of deal with English. And then if you go to Europe, like German contracts are in English, except for government contracts. Most of the multi-jurisdictional organizations, whether you're French or German, you do it in English. Dutch contracts are normally in English. So even in Europe, English is kind of, because of the way the contract language is, it was easy for them just to take English as the natural language. The problem you really have is at the moment, there aren't any good tools which can review contracts in other languages. What they basically do is on the back end, they use a translation service. So if you're inputting a contract in, let's say, Arabic, the backend software would translate it to English, the algorithms will then work on English, and then it would translate it back. That's not a great solution at all. And for those of you who speak Arabic or speak Hindi or Punjabi or any other languages, you'll know that the way we speak is very different to the way we write, and therefore, the minute you start using translation services, some of the nuances go out of the language, and it's hard to do. So in answer to your question, no, there isn't even though there's some companies who publicize that they do, there's no one who really does contract analysis in native languages other than English. If they are giving you an option, what they're actually doing is on the back end, they have a translation service. So that's the issue. And that's an issue because really where the technology started from and where it's progressed to and where even the first adoption of the technology was. And so I think that's just a result of that. But as we grow further, particularly in the Middle East, actually, because the Middle East, we've now got Shua as a debt provider who's investing about $250 million in technology. You've got PIF in Saudi Arabia. You've got other sort of investment vehicles now putting a lot of money in technology companies. But the minute you start having sort of local companies who are into the same field, I think that problem will go away. But that problem is still there. The other problem is, as lawyers, I can say this as a lawyer as well, we hate technology. So lawyers are the worst people to sell technology to, like lawyers and doctors. Doctors are even worse, because we're built on precedent. And so we're taught as lawyers, hey, look at the past, follow the past. That's how you become a good lawyer. And the problem with that is the minute we say to someone, you need to change the way you work because you need to use technology, that's completely alien to him. And they don't want to do it. And because of the adoption issue as well, you'll find that a lot of companies are not, you don't have as many legal companies unless you have a very strong venture backing. And the venture backing you're really getting are some of the incubators in the UK and Silicon Valley, Palo Alto, and Menlo Park in the US. And that's why it's very English-centric at the moment. So that's your first question. Your second question was about, I forgot, smart contracts. Okay, so it depends what you mean by smart contracts. If you're saying, hey, can a software generate a contract, an NDA, an MSA, and send it out, it can do that now. It's very easy. What you put in your standard provisions, it puts them all together and it generates them. You can even say to it, hey, this is an NDA, I want it one way, or this is an NDA, I want it reciprocal. And if I want a reciprocal, it would work out, okay, I need to put the different ones, and you can put it together. So structuring a contract is easy and it can be done. And so that's not hard. The bit which it won't be able to do, and probably will never be able to do, is when you go to the next stage of review and negotiation. Well, not for a while anyway, because that's where the AI struggles. The AI can, even with the most complicated algorithms, can give you suggestions. And if as a lawyer you look at the suggestions, 80% maybe you're like, okay, yeah, I agree with that. But there may be areas where you say, no, I don't agree with it. So I think that's where it is. So if you're talking about, can I just generate a contract? Yes, that can be done. It's very simple to do. And actually a lot of companies use that so that the lawyers are not harassed. So if a salesperson wants a teaming agreement or a partner agreement or wants an NDA or something, they don't go to the lawyer and say, hey, can you get me one? Because imagine if you've got 1,000 salesperson and everyone wants one once a week, you've got 1,000 contracts to find or do. So they use that to automate that piece, and that's okay. But I think in terms of the real value add, which we do as lawyers, which is using our brains to really come up with creative solutions, that's not where AI is at the moment. But I can completely see a world where they say, look, for simplified contracts, for auto generation, or where there's no negotiation, you have to sign standard form. You will never need a lawyer. That's a acceptable path, which we'll get to very soon if we haven't already.
Yeah, I just would like to tap on your first point related to lawyers hate technology, which is very true. We are the one who's really very resistant to the change and to leverage the technology. And when you think about it, to develop a digital transformation culture within your team first, and then within your company, this is you can call it like mission impossible, but it's possible. But it's much complicated than you bring your team and you tell them technology is good, because it doesn't work like that. First of all, you will need to think about operationalizing your legal function, because technology deals with numbers and data. And if you don't know how to really put your data in a structured way, if you don't know how to measure your legal work, if you don't know how to track it, if you don't know how really to deal with the legal function as a very normal operation function, so that you can have alignment with the business, how we do business, and also you have alignment with how technology perceive your data. Otherwise, it will not work. You will just upload your data and you will not get the result that you expect. Actually, you would get even more confused. So that's why starting by operationalizing your function, by putting the right trackers and the KPIs, measuring where you use your time to add the value with the business, try to learn how to monetize the legal services that you are providing to your company, so you link everything together, putting timelines for all the actions that you are doing and measuring how to improve this. This, in my opinion, will be the starting point. Second, you need to build a strong business case for business to approve one software to buy to the company. You will need to speak, as we said this morning, you will need to speak with many people, not only lawyers. Right? And to do so you talk about the CFO, you talk about the chief IT officer within your company, maybe the CEO. And I can tell you, a lot of discussions we had within our company, about, for example, the automatic screening happening in the background. And you can see all the sanction risk are going around, okay? And we say that, yes, it's amazing. I need to do that, but maybe it's not for this year. I don't have the budget. And once you have a problem like the Ukraine-Russian issue and the new sanctions are coming in place, then all of a sudden you have a budget. So it's all about the business case, right? How to develop really a business case that can enforce or can really encourage the stakeholders within your company to invest. And this, in my opinion, once you operationalized your legal function, now you will need to highlight the added value by using this software. So if, for example, today I am, let's say, helping the company to generate this dollar value, let's say $1 million value by my current service, I will need to be able to show that I'm going to add a markup of 10%, 15% by using the technology. It would cost us this amount, and this is a buffer. So which means that it's a proper investment from the company. Especially that you will be able to retain your lawyers, and you think about how you will manage best your resources, the level of efficiency, using your lawyers where it can add value. This is a discussion that you will need to have, and it shows really how difficult it is. And that's why you need to plan well for this journey. Back to the second point related to the smart contracts. It's the same evolution journey that the paper contract has gone through, right? Till you reach to having a standard template that everyone relate to, like FedEx, for example. It's created by what? The practices between lawyers start to accumulate until it become now well known for everyone. Everyone would feel comfortable to use this with some amendments. I think you can have the same setup for the smart contract, but you will need to be careful, right? So you will need to have the proper understanding of those clauses and how you can variate them, how you can amend them to fit your business, because you take it as is and you don't read it carefully and you don't think about how this relate to your business or to the interest of both parties, and then you have a problem, then a solution. So in my opinion, the role of the technology company, and it's a big role here, to start by what the customer need. So step out and go speak with the customer, learn their business, learn their business needs, what kind of issues they are facing, how you can make their life easier. This is the starting point. But if you just rush to develop the software and you try to have a scale business, so you need to have a very, very flexible, like a shell software that can help all type of industries. In my opinion, after a while, this type of commercial tech business will not be very helpful, right? So you will need to have a more specialized softwares that really start from the business needs. And this would require some investment, and it's not easy. But in my opinion, it's more sustainable. The earlier you do this investment, in my opinion, the faster and the bigger your company will be. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yasser. That was very, very kind of you to explain. So we're running over a little bit, so we need to close it fairly soon. If there are any other questions, feel free to just reach out to us. Do they have our details? They have our details, yeah. And I'd be happy to, particularly those of you who are in Dubai, to sit down and just have a natter. I kind of had an engineering degree as a first degree because as a brown person, I was engineer, doctor, or lawyer, one of the two. And I was like, why not do 2 out of 3? It's better. And so I was always into technology, and when I was the general counsel at Atos, I kind of was on the scientific committee where we're talking about quantum computing and that kind of wonderful stuff. And so I'm really happy to talk about technology with anyone for as long as you want. And Dr. Yasser has a lot of experience, both in-house and otherwise, and actually a very pleasant guy to be with. He's quite interesting. So if you're looking for a good lunch partner, he's a good person to be with. So feel free to reach out to us either through email or otherwise. If you have any questions, you can do that. We're a little bit over, so we're going to have to close. But I would just give you sort of 2 final closing points. One is that just be mindful about your maturity when it comes to taking technology. It seems like a great idea to say, hey, yeah, I want a system which is going to review the contracts for me. But if you're starting at, I've got a, I've got, I don't know, Dropbox as my filing system, you don't want to go from there to a full AI system. You want to take it step by step. So get used to having a contract management system, get the process in place, and then move on from there. So that's the first thing. Just be careful about your law firm or organization's maturity with technology. Because if you go for something too advanced or something which will cause you to change your work parameters too much, then it's going to be more manual effort than it's worth. And then you'll probably be put off. And as a technologist, and there's a too, I would always encourage everyone to use technology because I think it's amazing. And I'm glad I was born in sort of the timeline I have been, because I can see it grow, and we can see artificial intelligence grow. But just be mindful. But I would always encourage you. The second thing is, when you go to all these companies and you're trying to you'll find that a lot of them do a lot of free trials. It's the same as as our subscription services for PLI or Practical Law or whatever else. And so make use of them and find the right fit for you. Because the right fit may not be, depending on what you're doing as a law firm or in-house, the right fit may be completely different to what other people are doing. And then the only final point from my end would be that embrace it. I mean, I spent sort of a year selling to lawyers, and I thought I was a good salesperson. I thought I was half decent at talking, and so I could sell, but it was crazy hard. And Dr. Yasser was completely right. When you go to even a law firm, you're like, let's talk to the CIO, the security guy, the encryption guy, the chief financial officer, and then you finally get to it. So I would encourage you to embrace technology and AI and use it in the best method possible, and then progress from there. I think it was, for me, a bit of a game changer too. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fayiaz. Thank you. Yeah, I really enjoyed, again, the discussion with the colleagues. I learned a lot from you, Fayiaz, so I'm gifted really to join this panel today. My last 2 cents, which is a cause I defend, which is related to the people development. So before or while you are developing your digital transformation journey, let's agree that digital sometimes create a vacuum, right? So it doesn't give fair chance for our new generations to develop. We all have developed by the thousands of pages that we had to review and to put it in order in the files, which will becoming now a redundant job, right? So which means that our new generations will need to have an alternative source of development. And we are the guardian of this job now, so we shouldn't really drop it. So while we are rushing, which is the right thing, while we are rushing to develop our digital transformation tools, I think we need to also develop an alternative way of developing our people and giving them a chance to cope with the new era, right? To cope easily, in my opinion, and faster with the requirements of their role as, in my opinion, a culture developer and transformer within this legal industry in the future. So please be mindful to this as well. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Thank you.